4 months before the child was born. It says, I know that you don't want me in the child's life, so I'm willing to make you a deal. I would be willing to give up custody and not sign the birth certificate in exchange. I need you to sign something stating that you don't want anything from me and won't ever. That's perfectly fine. I can't have you do it because I want to. You not being in her life is not my fault. So if that's what you want, that's okay. Yes. Yeah, I'm going to JAG right now to see if they can write something up. So it is what you want. I need you to have that question answered because I'm not going to be held liable for.
So you testified previously that you never had that conversation with Lindy. That's not true, is it?
I don't see any phone numbers on this.
So are you saying that this isn't your text conversation?
It may not be, it may be, I'm not sure.
You're not sure.
Just because it has my name at the top doesn't mean it's mine.
So you're saying you didn't send these text messages to Lindy?
I don't remember.
You don't recall. Okay. Okay, so if Lindy provides her phone and these text messages on her phone from you, would you agree that these are text messages that you sent even if you don't recall sending them?
I just answered your question.
You didn't. I just asked you a new question, so go ahead and answer it.
What was your question?
If Lindy provided these text messages in her phone, where it says these text messages are from you, would you agree that you sent these text messages?
What was the date on the text messages were dated January 8th, 2020. So if they were from me, my daughter hadn't been born yet.
That's not what I asked you, sir. Did you send the text messages or not?
I told you I don't recall.
Okay. And I asked you if she provided her phone, it showed that these are from you and your phone number. Would you agree that you sent these text messages?
I didn't see my phone number.
That's not what I asked you, sir.
You just asked me that.
I asked if she would provide her phone and show they were from your number. Would you agree that you sent these text messages?
If the evidence
Since you don't recall them.
If the evidence was provided and it was quite obvious that it was my phone number, then I would have no choice but to agree.
Okay. But those text messages don't refresh your recollection. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so you had her phone number at that point. You said a couple months. So why did you need to take steps to find her?
Because I had no way of contacting Lindy.
Well, didn't you have her phone number?
After she texted me a picture of our daughter, I did, yes.
So you're saying she didn't text you when she was born?
She texted me a picture of my daughter, I believe it was a week after she was born.
You had her phone number in that text, right? From January, you said. Did you lose her number? Did you delete her number? Why didn't you have her number?
I just told you I can't validate that text message. I can't validate that conversation.
Did you delete her number, sir?
I would have never deleted her number.
So how is it that you didn't have her number? You guys were in a relationship, you were together, you created a child together. Clearly you had her phone number, right?
It's possible that she may have changed it.
You don't know if she changed it?
I don't know. It happened a few times while we were together that she changed it. So it's possible that she changed it.
Okay. So you reached out to her though before. Is that what you're saying?
When we were together, obviously we had a line of communication, yes.
And you reached out to her after, you guys were still communicating after you found out she was pregnant, yes?
Shortly after she found out, yes.
Okay, so why did you guys cease communicating?
Because she said she didn't want me in her life.
Okay. And what about the baby's life?
She said that she didn't want me in either of their lives.
Okay. So did you want to be a part of the baby's life?
I think it's quite obvious that I do.
Well, by that text message, it doesn't seem like it. It seems like you were willing to sign off your rights, right?
When was that text message dated?
Well, you just read it and said it 2 times.
So it was before the child.
I can pull it back
born?
up if you like.
It was before was it before the child was born?
Does that help, sir?
Looks like it's January 9th, 2020, which is approximately 4 months before the child was born.
So you guys were still communicating at that time. Is that right, sir?
If that's my phone number.
So you don't recall communicating then? Is that what you're saying?
I don't recall that conversation.
Okay, so you recall talking some point, you just don't recall just a couple months before she was born, you don't recall communicating. Is that what you're saying?
I recall communicating with her approximately a week after she was born.
Okay. So did you reach out to her then?
She texted me a picture of my daughter.
Was it from the same phone number, sir?
The number was unsafe, so I was unsure who it was.
So was it from her old number that she had, or was it from a new number?
It's a great question. It had to have been a new number if it was unsafe.
So did you get a new phone and not have her as a contact in your phone at that point?
No,
No, and you never deleted her contact.
I never deleted her contact.
Okay.
I never
But
blocked
did
her
you
phone
try
number.
reaching out to her before she texted you that the baby was born?
Did I try reaching out to her before
Yes.
from her? Wait, from her old phone number?
At that point in time, you said that was the number you had for her, right?
I don't remember.
You don't remember. Okay. So it's safe to say you weren't really pushing being a part of her pregnancy at that point. Is that right?
I think it's safe to say that she made it very clear that she didn't want me involved in either her life nor the child's life.
That's not what I asked you, sir.
But that's my answer.
It's a yes or no question.
That's my answer.
Is it safe to say that at that point you weren't pushing to be a part of her pregnancy? Yes or no?
It's safe to say that she made it very clear that I was
It's a yes or
not.
no question, sir.
Can you repeat the question?
Is it safe to say that at that point in time you weren't pushing to be a part of her pregnancy?
No.
Yes or no? No, you weren't pushing, or yes, you were?
I answered your question.
And I asked you another one.
What was it?
So no, you weren't pushing to be a part of her pregnancy?
She made it very clear to me that she didn't want me to be a part of her pregnancy, nor the child's life.
Okay, and I'm asking if you were pushing to try to change that.
I didn't have any way to contact her.
Did you try? Oh, that's right. You said you don't remember if you reached out to her. Never mind. Okay, I don't think I have anything further, Judge.
Okay. Thank you. Ms. Reed, your next witness.
I'd like to call the defendant.
Ms. Reed. Okay.
Ms. Rozola Velez, where do you currently live?
I currently live in Missouri.
Are you on base or off base housing?
I'm off post housing.
You said off post housing?
Yes.
Okay. Does Gavin currently have your address?
No.
Is there a reason why you haven't shared your address with him?
I don't want him to have it.
And you're currently in the Army, is that correct?
Yes.
And what position do you hold?
Currently a drill sergeant.
And how long have you been a drill sergeant?
About 18 months.
Are you under contract as a drill sergeant?
Yes.
When does your contract end?
My enlistment ends in September 2023. My drill sergeant role ends at the end of this month.
Okay. Are you renewing either of those?
No, I will not be renewing my drill sergeant contract or assignment, but I will be re-enlisting, yes.
Will you be transitioning to a different position?
I will just be working human resources until I PCS, which should be sometime September of 2024.
Does that new position have a set schedule?
Yes, it's Monday to Friday, a 9 to 5.
And when does that start?
At the end of this month, I'm currently on leave, so.
Okay. Do you have a specific date that it starts?
Roughly the 23rd of April.
Are there any weekend reporting requirements?
No.
Are there any standard holidays that you're afforded?
No, I will be working at the regular schedule, so all federal holidays, including any unit-based holidays, I would be off.
Can you explain what a unit-based holiday would be?
Sure, it means if the command team were to say, we worked really hard this week, good job, you're taking Friday off.
And those are at random?
Yes,
Does that affect your pay at all, not being a drill sergeant?
yes, actually, if I'm not a drill sergeant, I can't receive the drill sergeant bonus.
Okay. Do you know what your pay rate's going to be?
It'll be $375 less of what I'm currently making.
Does that affect any of the other military benefits that you receive?
No,
What benefits are you currently receiving?
not, I don't know, benefits as in TRICARE, healthcare, dental care, and my regular paycheck, which is twice a month.
Okay. Do you receive any base housing allowances?
I do. I receive roughly, they just increased it, so I think I receive about $1,100.
Is that monthly?
Correct.
Okay. Do you receive any sort of other income?
No,
Okay, and do you currently live in a house or apartment?
I live in a house,
Okay, and how many bedrooms is the house?
5 bedrooms.
You said 5?
Yes,
Okay. How long have you lived there?
since September of 2022.
And who lives with you?
My significant other,
And who is that?
Jonathan Olson.
Okay. And how long have you been dating Mr. Olson?
About 8 months.
Does anyone else live with you?
No,
Does Mr. Olson have any children?
yes,
And how many children does he have?
1.
And does his children visit?
Yes.
And how often?
Well, since September, last week was the first time she visited.
But she doesn't live with you at all?
No.
What is Mara's routine when she's with you?
Well, we get up, we drop her off at daycare. Well, I get up, I drop her off at daycare at around 7 to 9, depending on what time I have to report to work that day. If I have to report that day, she'll be at daycare, I'll be at work, I'll pick her up at around 1600, which is around the time that Mr. Lindsay has to make the call on the every other days. If not, she can stay a little longer, or I pick her up when she gets here, she eats dinner, I make her food. We have activities. I allowed her to take a shower. I've been teaching her how to kind of do it by herself. And then I try to put her in bed by around 8 o'clock.
Okay. Do you have any religious beliefs or practices?
I do.
And what are those?
I'm a Christian.
You go to church?
No,
Okay.
just Bible studies on Saturdays.
And what time are those Bible studies?
Whenever I can or want to.
Okay. There's no set time?
No, I just don't have, my practice is to not work on Saturdays.
Do you use any marijuana products?
No,
Do you drink any alcohol?
no,
Have you ever participated in a substance abuse treatment program?
no,
Have you ever been convicted of a misdemeanor?
no,
Have you ever been convicted of a felony?
no,
Any abuse or neglect proceedings initiated against you?
no,
Any physical issues that will impact your ability as a parent?
no,
Are there any mental health issues that will affect your ability to be a parent?
no.
In January of last year, would you agree that there was an agreement between you and Mr. Lindsay that Mara was going to be staying in Michigan while you were on cycle as a drill sergeant?
Yes,
Okay. And did you discuss a 10 and 2 week rotation?
no,
What was the agreement according to you?
the agreement was when I work, he has her, and when I'm off work, I have her. There was no specific 2 weeks that he's saying.
What was your cycle like?
Which one? I had 3.
When in January, when Mr. Lindsay moved in January to Michigan, what part of the cycle were you in?
I was in the middle of the cycle, just returning from HBL, which is holiday block leave. It was pretty flexible. We had a lot of drill sergeants at that time, so we cut our time pretty fairly.
So what does it, you said you had 3 cycles. Can you describe what these cycles are?
Whenever we pick up a group of recruits, that is what we call a cycle. In that time, we will train them for 10 weeks on different things, and we run the cycle in phases. There's 3 phases.
Okay, what do the phases look like?
So red phase, blue phase, and white phase, white phase and blue phase. So red phase would be the most, I'd say, busy at work. It's when you're really teaching the principles and the minor things to the recruits. So we're really at work a lot more often on the red phase. Once we start maturing into the white phase and blue phases, the soldiers already have their routine. Therefore, drill sergeants aren't as involved in the routine as they are in red phase. So that's when we start to back off and our schedule becomes more flexible.
And these 3 phases are all in one cycle?
Correct.
And how much off time do you have between cycles?
It depends on when the next time of shipment of recruits we will be receiving. So it could be 2 weeks, it could be 3 weeks, it could be 2 months.
During your relationship with Mr. Lindsay, had it ever been longer than a month?
Yes, I actually reported to Fort Leonard Wood on a non-conduct.
And how long was that non-conduct?
We didn't pick up till after Thanksgiving of November of 2021.
And when did that non-conduct start?
It started August of 2021, when I wasn't even here yet.
And how often does a non-conduct occur?
To be honest with you, not often, but since the retention in the Army numbers have been so low, it's been happening a lot more recurrently, I guess.
And are you receiving the same pay during these non-conduct times?
Yes.
What is your reporting requirement during a non-conduct?
I show up to work whenever they need me.
How do you know they need you?
They give me a text or a call.
And would they let you know how long you're going to be needed, or is it for just a day?
Under a cycle break and a non-conduct, the schedule is pretty set. They will let me know if they're going to need me for anything or for whatever amount of time.
But they're going off a schedule?
No, of a daily schedule of things we have to hit up according to the command team. So drill sergeants don't have a role during cycle break. We're really just resetting.
Okay. And during January of 2022, so that's last year, did you have any parenting time with Mara?
After he took her in January 14th, no.
Okay. Were you guys trying to arrange any parenting time in January?
We arranged that if I worked, you take her. If I'm off work, I take her.
But there was no plan set for a specific January parenting time for you?
No, I already had her for the 2 weeks prior before him leaving.
Okay, and then in February, was there any sort of agreements specifically for February for trips to come down to see you?
In February, I picked her up. February 27 of 2022, I went up to Michigan and picked her up.
And how long did you have her?
I had her until about the 2nd week of March or 3rd week of March.
And were you off cycle during that time?
Yes, 100%. I was at home with my daughter.
And then in March, what did you do for parenting time?
Well, considering it was my turn, I did whatever I wanted with my daughter. We did activities, we went out, we had fun. I didn't report to work.
Okay. So when you brought Mara back in March, did you
No,
discuss? Go ahead.
He picked her up in March.
Okay, so he picked her up in March, brought her back. And then for March, the end of March, beginning of April, did you guys talk about any sort of change in parenting time?
Well, during that time, Mr. Lindsay was still, I guess, what you call good faith. And he had told me that he was going to bring her down for Mauda's birthday so I could spend some time with her.
And did he bring her down for birthday time?
He did.
When was the first time you let Mr. Lindsay know that there was going to be a non-conduct in the summer of last year?
Beginning of May, it was consisted of a phone call, and I had told them that there were assumptions that we might get a non-conduct.
Okay, but it wasn't set in stone yet?
No, it was not.
Did you let him know how long it was going to be for? If there was going to be a non-conduct?
Absolutely. He knows that if there's a non-conduct, that means that for the 3 months that we're supposed to have a cycle, they are off.
Is a non-conduct always 3 months?
Yes. A non-conduct is the amount of time that it takes for a cycle to be in effect.
But we weren't sure yet at the beginning of May.
Correct.
And then during that time, was Mr. Lindsay continuing to text message you and send you pictures?
Yes.
Okay. So in June, did you come to Michigan to have parenting time?
No, he told me I couldn't be up there.
Did he do that in text messages?
No, he did that through the phone.
Did you send him a text message in June requesting parenting time?
I said that I was going to come get her.
And a text message in June?
No, and a phone call.
Did you come up and get her?
No, he told me I was not allowed on the premises.
Did you contact law enforcement?
I did.
Do you have an incident report?
No, they refused to file because he was in Michigan and I was in Missouri, and there was no registered custody order in Michigan to follow it.
Did you attempt to register the custody order in Michigan?
I registered in Missouri and I asked the judge in Missouri to have my daughter back, and he had said no, that he had no jurisdiction.
Okay. Did you file any motions in June to have parenting time?
I filed right after I filed in Missouri, I filed in Michigan, which is why I had a lawyer prior to Ms. Gillum.
But did you file a motion specifically to have parenting time in June?
I filed to have my daughter back, so yes.
Did you make any contact in July to Mr. Lindsay?
No,
Did you come up to Michigan to exercise parenting time in July?
no,
Did you call him in July?
no,
Did you call him in August?
no,
Did you text message him in August?
no,
Did you make any efforts to exercise parenting time in August?
no,
Did you do any of that in September?
no,
Did you do any of that in October?
no.
So there are no motions, no text messages, no nothing until your current attorney filed in October, November, is that correct?
No, there were attempts legally through court. That's why I had 2 lawyers prior. I had a lawyer in Michigan and I had a lawyer in Missouri trying to get my daughter back. I had told myself that I was not going to contact Mr. Lindsay at all, just through the court.
Did you let Mr. Lindsay know that you're not going to contact him?
No, I've ceased all contact. I did not trust him.
When you decided not to have any contact with Mr. Lindsay, did you block his number?
No,
Did you reach out to his family members?
no, they were reaching out to me for a little while.
Were they trying to arrange parenting time?
No, I don't even think that they were tracking what was happening.
What would be your proposed parenting time schedule?
We can keep it as is. I can't go any longer than 2 weeks without seeing my daughter, and I do whatever I have to do to get her. As far as permanently, I would want my daughter to be with me and to start school with me.
What school would she be attending?
Whatever school I'll be in or whatever state I'm in.
You don't know where you're going to be?
No, it's obvious I'm in the Army
How often have you moved since you've been in the Army?
twice. Fort Carson and Fort Leonard Wood, that's it.
And how long have you been in the Army?
7 years.
Is there a set schedule of when you could be moving?
No, I can always arrange stability. Depends, it's my decision really.
How would you arrange stability?
It's easy. I would go up to the retention officer and I'd let them know, hey, I'd like to stay here longer. And then they write up a contract and tell me that I'm stabilized in one location for whatever amount of time I want.
If you're needed at a different base, could the Army send you to that different base even if you don't want to go?
No, because of my MOS and the little amount of time that I have been in, I can still choose to where I want to go.
Have you and Mr. Lindsay ever disagreed regarding medical decisions for Mara?
Can you clarify, like, what medical decisions are we talking?
So major decisions. So if Mara would like need to go to the doctor for something pretty serious, do you think that you and Mr. Lindsay can come to an agreement on her treatment plan?
Honestly, no, I think I'm a lot more picky than he is as far as her going to the doctor. I would take her to the doctors for almost anything.
But I'm talking like major, if she needed like a major surgery,
Mm-hmm.
do you think Mr. Lindsay and you could have a conversation and reach a conclusion regarding what to do?
Absolutely. If it depends on my daughter's life, yes.
Do you believe you could have a conversation and reach a conclusion with Mr. Lindsay about her education?
No,
Why?
because I know that Mr. Lindsay is going to request something that I'm completely against.
How do you know that?
Because you already told me.
What did he tell you?
He said that he would like her to attend in Michigan because it's more stable for her, is what he said.
But you don't know what school she would be attending.
No, that doesn't mean it's not beneficial for her.
And you don't know where or when.
Well, it'll be when she has to attend, so at roughly 5 years old. Where, I don't know.
Are there any like pre-K programs available to you where you currently are?
100, yes. Even my daycare provides already child learning progress. At the age of 3, she should be moving soon to that classroom.
Have you talked to Mr. Lindsay about that process and what's available to her?
Yes,
Does she have a doctor that she sees down in Missouri?
yes,
Is that on base or private practice?
on base.
And have you discussed that doctor with Mr. Lindsay?
Yes,
And have you shared all medical records with Mr. Lindsay?
medical records, no,
And why not?
because he has access to those records.
Is he listed as parent and a grantor of access on her medical files?
Yes,
Is he listed as a contact for her daycare?
yes,
Has Mr. Lindsay been facilitating video calls?
they've been facilitated. They're not always Mr. Lindsay who's facilitating them.
Okay. And is Mara usually in a quiet location when she's having a video call with you?
Not always, no.
Where is she when she's having video calls with you?
When I'm calling him or when he's calling me?
When you're calling him?
When I'm calling him, she is out and about in the whatever she wants to show her dad, that's what she's showing him.
Okay, are you at home when you're doing these calls or at work?
I would say 90% of the time, I'm home. Some other times I might be at work, yes.
Okay, and when he's calling you to have phone calls, where is Mara?
A lot of the time she is, I guess, buckled down on a seat on his countertop.
Okay. And then I had another follow-up question regarding the stabilization that you talked about and picking and choosing that if you stay or go. Is that a set period of time where in your contract it walks out you are now quote stabilized for this period of time? Or can it be extended? How does that work?
So it could go either way, right? I can extend from my current contract, whatever long amount of time I want, or it could happen that if I already started a new contract and I have a lot left, I can ask to be stabilized for the remainder of my contract. So I could do an extension or I could do an in-contract type of stabilization.
And you had mentioned that because of how long you've been in and what your position is now, you have the authority to pick and choose where you go. Is there a period of when you've reached a certain milestone that then the Army tells you where you go?
Yes, so usually, right, after 10 years in the Army usually, like, this is a new thing that was inputted, the Army will tell you where to go. However, that wouldn't be my situation until at least 4 years from now.
And what's your current pay grade in the Army?
I'm an E5 sergeant.
And you said that the only difference in changing positions is that you're going to be making, you're not going to be getting your drill sergeant bonus of 375.
Correct.
And that is the only change that's going to be happening other than your schedule.
Yes.
I have no further questions.
Okay. Ms. Gillum?
Yes, Your Honor. You testified that you did not want Gavin to have your address. Why is that?
Because when I lived at my old address, Gavin had our neighbor look at what was happening at my house.
How do you know that?
Objection.
What's your objection?
I was gonna say like a foundation, but you asked your follow-up question, so go ahead.
Okay.
How do I know that? Because he told me so.
So he told you he had a neighbor
I
watching
didn't
you?
get that, ma'am. Go ahead.
I know it because he told me, Your Honor.
Who told you?
Mr. Lindsay,
Okay.
So Mr. Lindsay admitted to having a neighbor watching you?
yes,
And this was after he left to Michigan?
yes,
Okay. Okay, you said also that you're transitioning to a set or to a new position as human resources. Your schedule is going to be 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Monday through Friday. Now, is that a strict schedule, or are you able to, I mean, is it kind of similar to what you're doing now as far as you have to check in and if they need you, they want you there, or is it something where you actually have to be in person from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday?
it's a job that I certainly have to do, but it can be done remotely as well.
Okay, so you can do it from home?
Yes,
Okay.
I know that they'd rather not me do that, but I can, yes.
Okay. You mentioned that you have 5 bedrooms. Does Mara have her own bedroom
Yes,
in her own bed?
yes,
Okay. Does she have a playroom?
yes,
Does she sleep in her own bed when she's with you?
I attempt to, yes.
Can you explain?
I have a lot of difficulty having Mauda sleep on her own. I think she's just so used to Mr. Lindsay sleeping with her. So I will take her to the room, wait till she falls asleep, leave, go to my room, and then 3 to 4 hours later, she's up and asking for where I am. So I have to go back into the room and stay with her till she falls asleep again, if not the remainder of the morning.
Have you mentioned these issues with Mr. Lindsay?
I did. I had asked him if she was sleeping with him because I was having such a difficult time letting her sleep in her own room.
And what did he say?
He said that he usually sleeps with her because he wants to enjoy as much time as he can with her.
While she's sleeping?
Yes,
Okay, so you disagree with her co-sleeping? Do you think it's in her best interest to be able to sleep in her own bed?
absolutely. I think she's reaching an age where privacy and space for somebody is very necessary.
Okay. And your daughter, she's about to be turning 3, is that correct?
Yes,
Okay. And so you mentioned that she wouldn't be starting kindergarten until she turned 5.
yes, roughly, yes.
So you guys have over 2 years before you figure out kindergarten, is that right?
Correct.
Okay. You mentioned having a significant other. Are you two engaged?
Yes, as of recently, yes.
You said recently. When is recently?
I'd say like 2 months ago, 2, 3.
So the plan is to get married
Yes, hopefully next year.
in the next year?
Yes.
Okay. All right. We talked a little bit about Mara's routine with you. You said you get her up and drop her off to daycare. Do you guys do anything before you drop her off to daycare?
Well, usually I like to get up really, really early because I like her to eat something at the house before she goes to daycare just to make sure she's gonna have something in her stomach just in case daycare provides something she doesn't like.
Okay.
And then we just watch a little TV. She watches TV or plays with her educational apps until I am ready.
Okay. So you get up and you make her breakfast.
Yes.
Okay. And you guys brush teeth?
Yes, she loves doing that.
All right. And does Mara help you pick out her clothes, or do you do that on your own?
Well, it's both. I like to practice her own decision making, so I'll set out 3 different combinations and she'll choose whatever she wants interchangeably for the day.
Okay. All right. You said what time do you usually drop her off?
It depends on when I have to go to work, but it could be really early when daycare opens, which is 5:30, and or it could be really late. It could be 9 o'clock, 10.
Okay. I know you mentioned sometimes you said that there are times when you don't have to work. So how often would you say that you're not working when you have your daughter?
Hardly ever. My coworkers are very supportive, and so they rather me stay at home than come into work.
So you've had a lot of time off,
Yes.
or you don't have to go into work, I should say.
Yes, they usually tell me I don't, but I usually tend to. I try to be a good employee as well.
Okay. Now, Mr. Lindsay had mentioned something about your schedule was just too crazy. It was not feasible for you to be able to take care of your daughter with your schedule. So can you explain how you're able to manage to take care of your daughter with your schedule?
Yes, well, like I had told them, I had already made arrangements, so my coworkers are fine with me not going to work on Saturdays and Sundays. And also as a single parent, since they're very supportive, I only have to work during the times that daycare is active. So 5:30 to 5:30.
And if your daughter happened to be sick or anything like that, are you able to stay home and not go into work?
Absolutely, yes. I'll pick her up that same day and not go to work the next day, or not go to work until I feel like she feels better.
Okay. And I know you mentioned different times that you could go in. Is there certain, like a set time or set days that you have to be in at certain times or certain days?
No, we don't really have like set schedules. We won't know ahead of time. It's really just a day previous thing, like, oh shoot, you know what? We forgot about this. Can you come in just to like do this one thing for 2 hours and then you can go home? Or sometimes we know what the next day is kind of looking like. So like, hey, it's gonna be a full day today. Maybe you should prepare for that.
Okay, so that changes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but you can never work longer than your daycare provider. Is that correct? Is open?
That's correct.
Okay. I know you indicated that you are a Christian. You don't really go to church, but you do Bible study on Saturdays. Do you ever go to church?
Not though. There's no church that practice what I practice around Missouri. So no, I don't just go to any church.
Okay. When Mr. Lindsay was living with you, did you two, or did he go to church?
Never. No, he attempted to go to my church a couple of times.
So you did have a church there in Missouri?
No, not here in Missouri. You said living together, so I'm counting for
Oh,
college.
I'm sorry. I meant in Missouri. I apologize.
No, it's okay. No, in Missouri, neither of us went to church.
Okay. All right. And in Colorado, that's where you were living before that, right?
Yes.
So did you go to church then in Colorado?
Yes, I started going to church religiously because there was a building there. Yes.
Okay. And Mr. Lindsay, you said he tried going to your church?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so last year, there's been a question about the whole what was going on during the time frame of when you were exiting from Colorado and transitioning to Missouri. Can you explain when that was and how that occurred?
Sure. So I had finished drill school and I had roughly about a month, which I finished drill school at around, I think June. I reported back to Fort Carson, Colorado. I requested 30 days leave. So I requested 30 days of leave in order to pack all of my stuff. During that time, Mr. Lindsay has already made up the decision of leaving the Army. So he was packing his stuff up as well. I also, between Colorado and reporting to Fort Leonard Wood, we had stopped for a small vacation at his family.
Hold on, let me just stop you right there so we
Okay.
can make this as clear as possible.
Yes.
Okay, so you said you returned from your drill sergeant school in June. You returned at that point to Colorado.
Yes.
Okay, and do you remember when that was in June?
Oh, no, I don't remember when that was in. Sometime
Okay.
mid-June.
Mid-June. Okay, and so at that point, when you returned, right then, you had 30 days off. Is that what you're saying? You
No,
requested 30 days. So when did you request 30 days?
I requested 30 days mid-July.
Okay. Is that when you started?
No, that's only when I requested. It wasn't granted until I want to say second week of August.
Okay. And Mr. Lindsay testified that he was off around that same time, mid-August. Is that correct?
Yes, he was exiting the Army.
So you guys were both off that same time in August.
Mhm.
And you said you were off for 30 days.
Yes,
Okay. And so basically from middle of August to middle of September, you were off work.
yes. It was just
Okay.
moving stuff.
Okay. And so that was leave time you were taking?
Yes, I took leave time.
All right. And so what was going on during that time?
I don't know, packing, retrieving all of my records from Fort Carson's as I was out processing. I was no longer their soldier, so I had to retrieve all of my medical records, any type of developmental or career records, all of that stuff. During that time, we also had Mauda. So during that time, we stopped at Mr. Lindsay's parents' camp lake house or something like that. We stayed there for about a week. It wasn't 3 days, it was about a week. We had
That was
left,
in Michigan?
yes, in Michigan.
Okay.
Then we both agreed to leave Mauda there because we didn't want her to go into a hotel for that long while we settled in our new place. So she stayed with grandma and grandpa during that time. Mr. Lindsay.
How long was that?
It was like 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks.
Okay. So
Um,
you and Mr. Lindsay you went to Missouri at that point?
yes, him and I took all our things and we drove to Missouri, and we went to a hotel where we stayed a pretty decent amount of time until my housing on post was ready for us to be moved in.
Okay. So then when Mr. Lindsay testified that he had solely taken care of Mata from middle of August until December all by himself because you were working, that's not true? Is that right?
That's not true, no.
Okay. And so when did you have to start going to work in Missouri?
Well, I guess it's a very controversial word here, but I reported to Fort Leonard Wood, which means it's me officially telling Fort Leonard Wood, hey, I left Fort Carson, Colorado. I'm officially here in Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri on September 4th.
Okay.
And then from there, we were still on a non-conduct, so I had no obligations to report to work as a drill sergeant. What I was doing was called in processing, which is all those records that I had pulled from Fort Carson, I had to put it in the Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri system. So all of my medical records, all my dental records, all my progress, all of that had to be in a system for Fort Leonard Wood.
Okay. And how did you manage to do that?
Easy. My Mr. Lindsay was still here, and so he took care of Mauda. He wasn't working. I didn't even have an official daycare date yet until mid-October, so he was taking care of her. But it was 2 hours a day, if that, 3 times a week, and it took about a week to in process. So the remainder of the time, I was home.
You said 3 days, and that was 1 week it took you?
Yes, and processing only took a week.
Okay. So the rest of the time, besides that 1 week, you were home and able to take care of Mata.
Yes.
Okay. All right. And so when did your non-conduct end?
It ended when we picked up our new cycle, which was after Thanksgiving in November of 2021.
Okay. You mentioned that your agreement with Mr. Lindsay was that he was going to be taking care of her while you're working, and you would have her when you were off work.
Right.
Now, had you two discussed how much time that could possibly be? Like in between when you were working and when you were off? Had you discussed it possibly being more than 3 weeks off cycle?
I had mentioned to him that I could possibly get non-conducts, yes, and that they were long.
And did he know how, well, you were on a non-conduct when you first arrived. So did you ever discuss how long those non-conducts can last?
Yes, he had asked me that same question, yes.
And that was that way before May when you found out you may go on a non-conduct? Was that when you guys originally talked about it?
About when he knew what non-conducts were, how long they were?
About, yes, when you guys were discussing parenting time, talking about you possibly having a non-conduct.
He knew what a non-conduct was and how long they were because we have reported here on a non-conduct, and he had asked why I was never reporting to work. And I said, we're on a non-conduct, which means I don't have to report to work for the remainder or for the time that it is to have a cycle, so 10 weeks.
Okay. So was that a topic of discussion when you guys were discussing parenting time? You possibly having a non-conduct?
Yes,
Okay. And was that before you found out in May that it was possible you were going to be going on a non-conduct?
yes.
Okay. So I know we had text messages earlier. They were at the end of December when you two split up, and it mentions, an agreement. You indicated that you had already made arrangements for childcare at that point in time, and Mr. Lindsay wanted to continue to take Maura to Michigan. So he mentions that there was other agreements that occurred after that. So is that true? I mean, did you guys continue changing your agreement, or what was going on during that time?
No. So the text messages referred to me telling him, hey, I'm already good.
Mhm.
And then we sat down and we said the same arrangement we've been talking about. When you work, I have her. When you're off work, you have her. There has
Okay.
been no other changes to the agreement.
Okay. So why did you, if you had adequate childcare there in Missouri, why did you agree that he could take Maura to Michigan?
He kept asking, he kept begging for it pretty much. He kept telling me that I needed to do this, that it's more beneficial for me to have more time off and it'll be great, just focus on you type stuff. He just kept asking for it.
So why would it be better? You said better for you or better for Maura
No, he just kept saying it's better for me, like Lindy.
to have time away from your daughter?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, okay. So you guys had that agreement. You said earlier that you mentioned to him about the possibility of a non-conduct, and you think that was in March? I'm sorry, May, I think you testified to.
Yes,
Was
ma'am.
that May, the beginning of May?
Yes.
Okay. And when you guys discussed that possibility of you having a non-conduct in May, did you at that point say, okay, well, if we have a non-conduct, I'm going to come pick her up and then I'll, keep her? Or what was your guys' discussion at that point regarding how parenting time would go during your non-conduct?
So it was pretty much just like, hey, I'm gonna have I could have a non-conduct soon, and it was just what was said on the text message. He had asked, well, are you gonna do the same thing for me like I have for you, which is drive down there once a month so that I could see her? And I had agreed to that, yes, because I wanted to be fair.
Okay. So then your understanding is you were going to have her, but you were going to drive down there once a month for like what, a weekend or so?
Yes,
So
one
we
weekend.
could see her?
Yes.
So did Mr. Lindsay indicate to you why he thought it would be or why he wanted to take Mara with him if he was going to have to work and she would be in daycare all day with him as opposed to her being with you and in daycare while you worked? Like, what did he say? What was the reasoning why he thought that it was better for her to be with him?
No, he did not. He ended up having childcare just like I did.
And did he ever mention to you why he thought that he was more stable?
I think the only thing that he said is because he's got a huge family.
Okay. So right now you are in Missouri, and how long will you be in Missouri?
Till September of 2024.
Okay. And you mentioned having the option to extend your contract and stay there. What did you call for stabilization?
Stabilization, yes.
So that is an option for you.
It is an option, yes.
Okay. When will Mara start kindergarten?
Roughly 2 years when she turns 5.
So it'll be more than 2 years, right? Because kindergarten would start in September. So about 2.5 years.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So it sounds like right around the time that Mr. Lindsay will be moving or plans to move, right?
Yes.
There was some discussion about phone calls and not making phone calls. So what happened? What happened in May?
So what happened in May pretty much was that it was going fine. We were, doing calls. I would call her, or he would call me, send pictures. It was fine. And then roughly around 3 days prior to picking her up, which was supposed to be of May 28th of 2022, he had called me and he had told me that I was no longer welcome, that I was not going to pick her up, and that if I was, that he was going to have me arrested. So at that point, I was devastated. I attempted to make calls a little bit after that, but I then did cease communication because I didn't want him to use anything against me in court.
Okay. So did he say why you were no longer welcome to pick up Mata on the 28th?
No, he just told me that he wishes he'd never see me again or hear from me again.
Okay. So I know you were sending, like when this first happened, obviously you said you were devastated and you were trying to reach out. I know you mentioned something about filing a case in Missouri.
Mhm.
Was that in May as well?
Yes, I filed not even 4 days after. I had done everything I could. I went through the loan. I got a loan to get a lawyer and everything getting started.
Okay. And when did you find out that Mr. Lindsay had filed the case in Michigan?
Oh, not even that. I had filed in Missouri like a month prior to him filing in Michigan. Because I think I got the notification roughly June, July that he had filed in Michigan.
Okay. I know you mentioned sometime like at first you were trying to reach out
Mhm.
and there were some text messages. Were you texting him to talk to your daughter?
Yes, I texted him to speak to my daughter multiple times.
And that was in May, right?
Yes, May and then a little bit beginning of June.
So was he, when you were texting him to talk to your daughter, was he letting you?
He was very like confrontational. When he knew that I was pretty much devastated and I was very desperate to speak to her, he kind of just laughed in my face and told me that I needed therapy.
And this was on a phone call or basically a text message?
There was a phone call about me saying I need to speak to my daughter right now. And he had said, no, she's sleeping. He hung up. And then I got really desperate. I kept texting him, I need to see my daughter. I need to see my daughter multiple times. And then that's when he texted me back and he said, and I need therapy.
You mean you, referring to you needing
Yeah,
therapy?
referring to me, I needed that therapy, yes.
Okay. Now, were there times also during this when you were texting him asking, besides the time where she was sleeping, when he didn't make her available for a phone call for you?
Yes, there was multiple times where I had to keep telling him or asking him why was it such a big problem for him to make her available for me. And he kind of just said, well, we're busy, we have things to do. And then he kind of condescending. He was just like, this is my schedule. I'm not gonna let you tell me when I can make the call or not.
Okay. So he didn't care about your schedule or your availability when trying to schedule a call with Mauda?
No, not at that time, no.
Did you at all ever get a chance to talk to your daughter in May?
Yeah, I've talked to her a couple of times before he told me that I wasn't allowed to pick her up because that was the plan. So along all of May, I did have contact with my daughter until he said no.
Okay. And so after he said no, then that's when the contact stopped.
Yeah, that's
Okay. Did you feel like he was trying to control you by controlling when you could talk to your daughter?
yes.
Is that why you eventually gave up and decided to stop asking?
No, that is not the reason. The reason was because I wanted to go about this legally in the correct way and make sure that I'd done it as legal and supportive and correct as I can without getting messy or immature or anything like that.
Okay. And I know opposing counsel mentioned about you basically then didn't talk to your daughter for several months and didn't ask to have any parenting time. Was there a reason why you didn't ask for parenting time?
No, I didn't ask Mr. Lindsay personally for parenting time. I had gone through a lawyer and my lawyer had requested parenting time.
So your understanding is that the lawyers were trying to work out something regarding parenting time during that time?
That's what it was my understanding. That's what I was paying for, yes.
And what was your understanding as to why it was taking so long to get some type of decision regarding parenting time or custody?
So the biggest one that delayed everything was the courts deciding on who was going to take jurisdiction of the matter. That is the biggest one. The second one was Mr. Lindsay and his lawyer, and then I guess my lawyer, never coming to an agreement of when parenting time was going to be. For the parenting times that were pitched to me was that Mr. Lindsay was going to have her the majority of the time, or that they were going to be supervised or just phone calls or something I was not going to agree to that.
Okay. I have nothing further for cross-examination, Your Honor.
Okay. Ms. Arzola Velez, I have a few questions before I turn it back over to Ms. Reed. You said that there were various phone calls that occurred, I think, in May and thereafter to your daughter. How many would you say total that you had? Approximately.
Around 15, Your Honor.
Okay. And that would have been from, let's say, May and June before your whole thing broke down, or what?
That would have been from the beginning of May to the beginning of June. Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. You said that at some point you were able to choose where you want to go and be stationed. Is there a base in Michigan that you can go to and be stationed?
Unfortunately, no, Your Honor.
Okay. What would be the closest base that you could go to Michigan? Indiana, Illinois, Ohio, what?
It would probably be Fort Campbell, Kentucky, Your Honor, would probably be the closest.
Okay. And you said that after 10 years, the Army can tell you where you have to go. How many years have you been in now?
7 years.
7?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, Your Honor.
You stated that you're able to, when you get into the HR, you're able to work remotely. You said it wouldn't be good, but you can. What did you mean by that?
I meant, Your Honor, that everybody would prefer that they have their employees work in person than remotely. It's a lot easier to address any types of issues or inconveniences during the work process, but that I can do that whenever it is more convenient to me, Your Honor.
Okay. You stated that you were in, at some point when you were leaving Colorado, you were in, basically, you said in process. And that was where you were having to put stuff in the system in Missouri. You said that you worked approximately 3 days a week or 3 days for 3 hours for 1 week. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's not necessarily working, Your Honor. It's really just the administrative area prior to starting my drill sergeant assignment.
Okay. And enlighten me, I'm a little confused. You talk about this 10-week cycle, and I think that was a drill cycle. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor. The active time for a cycle is 10 consecutive weeks.
Okay. And then what is the time between the cycles?
It could vary from 2 weeks, Your Honor, or to 4 weeks. It depends on when the next group of recruits are going to be reporting to our company, Your Honor.
Okay. From the time that Mr. Lindsay left in, let's say, in January of 2022, when he left Missouri, until I guess probably in June or so, you never had a non-conduct cycle at that particular point. Is that correct?
That's correct, Your Honor.
if these cycles go 10 weeks, why did you not have a non-conduct somewhere between January and let's say June?
I think that, so a non-conduct is different from a cycle break, Your Honor.
I understand,
Mhm.
but obviously, okay. So even though you do have a break of, as you said, 2 to 4 weeks, because you're in cycle, a non-conduct can happen at any time?
A non-conduct will happen between the break of the last cycle and the beginning of a new cycle, if there is a new cycle.
Okay, so that's not, okay. That's what I was asking. So that's not a 2 to 4 week period of time. As you once mentioned, I think it's a rest cycle. It's something else.
Yes, that means there is no recruits at this time. There's no training for 10 weeks. There's not a group of trainees to train.
And so all the time that you were in, you basically had this 3-month time. Would you call that, was that a non-conduct or was that a rest cycle?
So I had a non-conduct reporting to Fort Leonard Wood. In November, I picked up a cycle, which was 10 weeks, including the holiday block leave, which is 2 weeks rest time in January for holidays. They graduated in February. So from February to March, that is what you call your cycle break, because you are already going to start another cycle after that.
Okay. Well, what I'm trying to figure is, since when he left Missouri until approximately June, you had no non-conducts during that time. You did have a non-conduct for approximately 3 months in June of 2022. And then after that, you've had no non-conducts, correct?
No, Your Honor. So I had a non-conduct. Yes, you're correct. During that summer time frame, and then we picked up another cycle. Let's see, we're in January again of this year, 2023.
Okay. So your non-conduct wasn't 3 months. Isn't that correct? It was a longer period of time, or am I missing that? Until January, when you picked up this other cycle.
Yes, you have to include the cycle break in that as well, Your Honor.
You include cycle break in a non-conduct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, so the breaks that you have, it's kind of duplicative of a non-conduct then. I mean, you're off, but doesn't, I guess, depends on what they call it.
Yes, cycle reset, yes. So you would count as that last cycle, you would count those weeks that you were off for that reset. Then you get the notification that there's a non-conduct. Now you're in a non-conduct, which is those 10 weeks that you're supposed to have in a cycle. Then you also have to still account for those, that if there was a cycle, those 2 weeks of cycle reset. So it was very long. It's 3.5 to 4 months.
Okay, so that would have been, let's say, June until sometime in, let's say, September.
Yes.
And then you went into another cycle. Correct?
And so in September, so August and September timeframe, our company was focused on another tasking, which is EIB, ESB. It's pretty much a competition that soldiers do. That's what we were doing during that timeframe.
Okay. So you're still doing something that's, let's say, soldiering or work, even though you had a non-conduct and you weren't doing any work.
Yeah, I was doing a detail during that time, yes.
Okay. And since that time, let's say since September, have you had anything other than those rest cycles in between the drill cycles or any non-conducts from that time until today's day?
Yes, you have to account for holiday block leave. So soldiers also go on holiday block leave December to January. And that is why we didn't pick up till January of this year.
Okay. Okay. You had mentioned that your grade is an E5 sergeant. And when you finish that, I guess you say that contract, you're going to be making $375 less per month. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor. The bonus comes with the assignment. So if I'm no longer on that assignment, I cannot receive the bonus.
So how much is the base pay that you make?
Base pay. prior to deductions, I think we're right.
Yeah, your
around-
gross. Yeah,
Yes, I think $3,000, Your Honor, around there.
that's per month.
Yeah,
Okay,
no, so $3,000 would be, the gross $3,000 would be twice a month, because I get paid on the 1st and on the 15th.
okay. So it'd be 6,000 then.
Around there, Your Honor.
Okay. And then you additionally get $1,100 in housing allowance.
Yes, that's once a month, yes.
Okay, I don't think I have anything further. Ms. Reed, any redirect?
I do, Your Honor, but because
Yes. Like to show defense exhibit 11. You've seen this earlier, sir. These are your answers to interrogatories, correct?
You can scroll up, please.
Sure.
It does appear that, yes, those are.
Okay, we'd like to direct your attention to number 10. Number 10, you're asked to list your monthly living expenses. Is that correct?
Mhm.
Okay, can you list those off for the court?
$100 per week attorney fees, $40 per month phone bill, $175 to $200 per month gas travel, $10 per month Spotify, $140.51 per month car insurance, $75 per week car payment, $50 per week Snap-on payment, $100 per month Roth IRA, $225 per week childcare, $10 per month gym membership, phone hardware payment, $90 per month.
Okay, and those are the list of expenses you gave us. Is that correct?
That is the list of expenses I gave you.
Okay. Can you explain why your list doesn't include anything about any of your daughter's food, diapers, or clothing?
Because those are just things I just grab when I need them.
So you don't buy her food monthly?
I don't organize shopping trips. I buy her what she needs when she needs it.
Well, how often do you feed her, sir?
When 3 to 5 times a day.
Okay. Do you buy the groceries or do your parents buy your groceries?
It's kind of split. There's no
Split
particular
how?
there's no particular agreement. I pick up things when I need them. They're on like a diet, and they purchase those groceries. Most of the time I purchase groceries for my lunches, my daughter's food. Sometimes we'll eat dinner with them. So there's really no set schedule.
But you didn't list that on your expenses.
I did not.
Okay. And you didn't list anything about clothing or anything like that? Any other needs that your daughter has, is that right?
I did not
Shoes.
list anything else.
Do you buy those things for your daughter or do your parents?
I reimburse my parents for those things. I'm not very fashion oriented. It doesn't really register in my head what matches and what doesn't. So usually my mom will pick up, outfits and stuff, and then I'll pay her for those.
Okay. But that's not on your list either.
No, it is not.
Okay. All right. Well, there's no rent and no utilities listed on your monthly expenses. Is that right?
There are not.
Is that because you don't pay them?
I don't have, like I said earlier, there's not a set contract or agreement. I just help out when I can.
What does that mean? Does that mean you pay rent or you don't pay rent?
I help out when I can.
Do you pay rent, sir?
There's no agreement. There's no rental agreement.
So does that mean no?
That
Don't pay
means
rent?
that means that whenever my assistance is needed, I offer my assistance, whether that's
Would you call that
monetarily-
rent?
Whether that's monetarily or through labor or helping, odd jobs.
So are you saying that you do a trade in services for rent?
Not necessarily all there's, like I said, there's no specific agreement.
So does that mean you don't pay rent, sir?
That doesn't mean that I don't pay rent, no.
So do you pay rent, sir?
There's no rental agreement.
It's a yes or no question. Do you pay rent or not?
If you're looking for like rent on my bank statement, you won't find it.
So does that mean you don't pay it?
That means that there's no rental agreement, there's nothing consistent.
Hold on a second.
Your Honor, can you
Hold on a
have him
second.
answer the question?
Okay. Sir, in this matter, she's asking if you pay rent. It doesn't matter if you have an agreement or not. If you pay it, then you would say, yes, I pay it. If you never pay rent, then you don't. Okay?
Yes, Your Honor. I
Please,
understand.
please don't parse words. Just answer the question.
I understand, Your Honor. I do not pay a specific amount of rent.
Hold on. Do you ever pay rent, sir?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Do you pay any gas or electricity, sir?
No. Occasionally propane.
So would you agree that you're saving money by living with your parents?
I am.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
Would you agree that if you moved out, you'd have to pay rent and utilities somewhere else?
Most likely I would, yes.
So your parents' home, you've been living in your parents' home with Mara since January, is that correct?
That is correct.
All right. And so I'm assuming that's not a permanent spot for you, is that right?
That is also correct.
So you plan on moving, sir?
Yes.
When do you plan on moving?
I am right now working on purchasing 5 acres of land. Plan to, there's really not a set timeline of when I'll build, but it will be within the next 2 years.
So you're planning on purchasing some acres and building a house on it within the next 2 years? Is that what you're
Correct.
saying?
Correct.
Okay. So you plan on moving within the next 2 years?
Correct.
All right. Where do you plan on moving to, sir?
About 300 yards down the road from my parents' house.
Okay. You testified earlier that your parents they have 4 bedrooms, and that you and Mara have a bedroom upstairs.
Mhm.
Can you explain the layout? Where is Mara's bedroom in relation to yours?
It's on the same floor,
And how far away is it from yours?
5 feet.
And has she always had her own bedroom at your house?
Not always.
When did she get her own bedroom?
Within the last probably 6 months.
Do you have anything sooner than that, sir? Do you remember what month it was that you guys?
No, I do not remember.
Okay. Is she staying in your sister's old bedroom?
Yes, that would be my sister's old bedroom.
And when did your sister move out?
I don't remember for sure.
When did she get married?
October, I believe.
Did she move out before or after October?
Before.
Okay. So you think maybe September?
I'm not for sure.
Okay. Now, when she moved out, did you immediately make her a room? Did you wait?
It wasn't immediate. It was just kind of a gradual thing.
Does Mara even sleep in that room?
Not usually.
Where does Mara sleep?
She usually sleeps in the room with me.
She sleeps in the same bed as you?
Usually,
And you think that's in her best interest to co-sleep with you in the same bed?
mm, I don't know. I haven't done very much research on that.
Okay. So you say usually, where else does she sleep if she's not sleeping in bed with you?
There is also a pack and play in the room.
So she sleeps in that packing place, Susan?
Occasionally, yes.
Okay. Does she ever sleep in that, your sister's little bedroom?
Not really.
Okay. So then that's really not her room, is that right?
It is. It is her room.
Does she play in there? Hang out in
Yeah,
there? What does she do in
She
there?
has toys in there. Most
Okay.
of her toys are downstairs in the common area, living room.
Is that where she usually plays, downstairs in the common area?
Correct.
Gotcha. Is your daughter potty trained?
She is.
When did she become potty trained?
I don't remember a specific month. It was during the time that her mom wasn't communicating with her.
I'm sorry?
It was during the time that her mom wasn't communicating with her.
During the time her mom wasn't communicating. And when was that, sir?
That was before the temporary order was in place, around
Okay.
June to whenever that temporary order took place.
And you said she wasn't communicating with her. So
Correct.
did you reach out to Lindy during that time and try to facilitate phone calls?
I'm sorry, your internet cut out. Can you say that again?
Did you reach out to Lindy during that time to facilitate a phone or video call?
I sent pictures, and I believe one of my exhibits makes it pretty clear that I was, willing to facilitate phone calls.
It's a
Um,
yes or no question, sir. Did you reach out during that time to facilitate a phone call or video call with Lindy?
Based on the evidence I've provided, yes.
Yes. Okay. So how many times did you reach out to facilitate a phone call, sir?
That I believe was a text message dated May 29.
Is that the only time you reached out, sir?
I sent pictures a couple times after that. Wouldn't be able to give you specific dates. I don't
I'm
know.
not asking when you sent pictures. I'm asking when you facilitated a phone call or a video call after that period of time.
We never got a response from her. So
Who is we?
my daughter and I, we never got a response from the defendant, so I assumed that she wasn't willing to participate in a phone call.
Well, didn't you say in those text messages that you read earlier not to reach out to you, but instead to reach out to your parents to talk to Mara?
That was a different time frame. I don't remember when those were dated for sure.
Okay, well, let's pull those back up. These are the text messages, right?
Those are the ones that you submitted as evidence. That's right.
Okay, and what's the date on that? What's the date on those text
These-
messages?
All of them are dated 4/20/22.
Okay, and on 4/20/22, you said, actually, from now on, I'd like for you to communicate with my parents when you'd like to see Mara. If anything changes, I'll let you know. Isn't that right?
Yes, I did say that on 4/20/22.
Okay,
I would also like to point
there's
out
no question on the table, sir.
okay. Understood.
Did you send Lindy a book about a Jezebel being a Jezebel?
No, I did not. I sent her a book titled Unmasking the Jezebel Spirit.
Right, okay. Why did you send her that book?
I had just finished reading the book and I thought that it would be good. Thought that she would enjoy the read.
Well, what is it about, sir?
It was about sort of I don't know if you are you familiar with Jezebel in the Bible, the story of Jezebel?
A little bit.
So It's about
Hold
sort of,
on, Miss Gillum, how is this relevant that he provided her a book or referenced a book to her?
Because Your Honor, I'll get to that, but I mean, it basically has to do with his treatment of her.
Well, get to it now, Miss Gillum.
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Lindy, isn't it true that you called Lindy a slut and a whore and a Jezebel on more than one occasion?
no,
No, you never called her that?
no,
Never. Okay. Isn't it true that you also told her that you don't want her to raise your daughter because you don't want her to turn out to be a whore, slut, or Jezebel like her?
no,
Isn't that why you sent her that Jezebel book? Because you're accusing her of being a Jezebel?
no.
No. So you just thought it would be a good read.
I thought that it would be a good read, correct.
Okay. Yep. And what is that book about, sir?
It's about how to, the different ways to overcome temptation in like the whole sexual immorality.
So did you think Lindy is sexually immoral?
That's a matter of personal opinion. I don't,
I'm asking you what your opinion is, sir.
does that really matter?
It does.
I'm gonna object, Your Honor. I don't see how any of this is relevant.
Okay, Miss Gillum, how is it relevant?
Your Honor, again, it has to do with his treatment of her. Domestic violence, emotional abuse, verbal abuse.
I don't see how they're related, Miss Gillum. Now, maybe I'm missing the point, but I guess enlighten me if I am.
Well, we're talking about, he's sending her a book about being a Jezebel when he's accused her of being a Jezebel previously, whether or not she's being immoral. I think morality is definitely one of the best interest factors, Judge.
Well, he stated he hadn't accused her, so I guess until you get.
But I'm
your
asking
client
him
to testify.
specifically what his opinion is of her. Does
Well,
it not go to the moral factor, Your Honor?
no, I guess his opinion wouldn't go to the moral factor because it's not a matter of fact, it's opinion. If you can demonstrate some fact that would demonstrate that, then that's fine.
Well, I would like to get his opinion and find out what he's basing it on.
Well, why don't you ask him the question if he believes that she's morally unfit, and why is that?
Well, I mean, that is one of the questions that we're asking.
Well, you haven't asked it yet, so that's why I'm in a quandary.
Okay. So are you overruling, Your Honor?
I'm just saying it seems to be that we're addressing a lot of extraneous issues that are not germane to the decision the court has to make. And him referencing a book is one of them, unless you can tie it in some way.
Okay, Your Honor. We'll try to do that. Maybe you proceed?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. Sir, can you answer the question?
What was the question again?
Do you believe that that Lindy is sexually immoral?
I believe that I am not the one to cast that judgment.
Do you believe Lindy is morally fit?
Morally fit
Yeah,
for what?
to raise your daughter.
That's a tough question. I think that she's made mistakes, as we all have. Whether or not, I mean, we're all going to continue to make mistakes, but whether or not the seriousness of those mistakes, will affect our daughter for the rest of her life, that's up. It's kind of up in the air.
It's a yes or no question. Is she
I don't
morally
know.
fit? You don't know.
Don't know.
Okay. Is she a good mother?
I do think that she's a good mother.
What are some of the things that you like about her as a mother?
Some of the things that I like about her, she's very attentive. She's very caring. I think that she's loving to our daughter. Just a few other things, yeah.
Is that it, sir?
Well, give me a second to think. I think that she's a fairly good protector. She has a pretty good instinct of when something's wrong. Yeah, that's it.
So back on those text messages that we reviewed earlier. What changed your mind?
What
What
are you
changed your
referring to?
mind regarding the agreement that you had with Lindy regarding parenting time?
There wasn't much that changed my mind. It was just kind of she's like, hey, I'm on a 3-month break. I'm getting her, and I wasn't a super huge fan of that after some thought.
But that's not something that she just sprung on you. That's something you guys discussed previously, right?
No, it was unplanned.
Okay, well, the messages that we talked to earlier, we talk about her bringing her down to you every single month. So obviously at some point before then, you guys contemplated the fact that she would be off and she would be bringing your daughter down to see you monthly, right?
Yeah, I would assume so, whether that be through a phone call or whatever.
Okay. So isn't it true that up until about April or May, you were still trying to get with Lindy?
I would not say that I was trying to get with her.
You weren't telling her I love you, I miss you.
I thought that there were some bugs that we could work out. In hindsight, I'm glad that it didn't work out.
But you were trying to, at that point, get back with her, right? Work things out.
Or what dates did you say?
Up until about April or May of last year.
Of last year, 20. I would say a little bit earlier than that. Probably March was when I kind of started to understand that it probably wasn't gonna work out.
Right. And then when you realized that she moved on and was in another relationship, that's when you decided to keep your daughter from her, isn't that right?
I'm gonna object, Your Honor, that it's irrelevant about what the relationship was. And I don't see how this is relevant to custody, parenting time, and child support now.
Ms. Gillum, how is it relevant?
Well, Your Honor, he kept this child away from her mother for over 6 months. He decided on this certain time, during this certain time, just to stop abiding by their agreement. And this is his motive for doing so. So that's why it's relevant.
Well, maybe ask that question and then we can determine if that's the motive and then we can move on.
Well, okay, what question would you like me to ask, Judge?
Well, you're saying that is the reason that the agreement wasn't followed, is she had a different relationship, so.
That's what I just asked, Your Honor.
Okay.
That was my question. Sir?
All right, go ahead and repeat the question, please.
I said, isn't it true that when you found out that Miss Arzola Velez was in another relationship, that's when you decided to no longer allow her to see your daughter and to not abide by your agreement?
No, that's not true.
It just so happened to be a coincidence right around that same time frame, huh?
Do I need to answer that?
Yes.
Yes, it was coincidence.
Okay, sure. And so why did you stop taking your daughter down there? Because it looked like you were taking her down in April, you were taking her down in May, but after May, nothing.
After May was when I told her that I wasn't comfortable with our daughter leaving the state.
So why didn't you take her back down there like you had previously?
I wasn't comfortable with my daughter leaving the state.
Even if she's with you, you're not comfortable with her leaving the state?
Well, if I brought her down to her mom, she would definitely be staying with her mom.
What?
If I had brought her down for a weekend to see her mom, she would not be staying in the same place that I would be.
What does that have to do with anything, sir?
If Lindy decides, wake up on Sunday morning, oh, well, I'm keeping her. There would be nothing that I could do about it.
Okay, so you were concerned that she would keep her like you had done,
I was concerned
Is
that
that
she would keep her and then I wouldn't see her for a
right?
long time.
Is that a yes or no question? You would keep her, she would keep her like you had done. That's what you were concerned about, yes or no?
No.
No, that's not your concern. Okay. Your Honor, I don't have anything
I
further for
didn't
him.
keep her.
Nothing further.
Okay. Well, I do note it's about